just you all know, we are live.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I have people coming to us some heat
You just show the rest of the world that we're human. We joke.
They already gave me instructions on how to make the do not disturb signs fall off the door every time you open the door. I was like, thank you, I'll get new ones.
They are, yeah.
David, sign in for me, please, and these are the packets, so I'll grab one of those, okay? Thank you.
Oh, Walter.
Walter.
Long time no see.
Walter, you're gonna sit comfy.
Oh, thank you.
Uh-huh.
I'm just a
I'll
member
set
of
you
the
up.
public today. Well, we're trying to make you a member of the clan.
Pulling out the red carpet.
I don't have a big budget to bribe you, but I'll get you what I have.
Yep. Let's see what we can do.
Oh, David.
I think you should sign in too.
Should I?
Well, you're a guest of, you're not an average, you're a member of the public or my boss, but either way, you gotta sign in, huh?
Who am I?
Who are you tonight?
How's that going?
Pretty good.
Good.
Same as I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else comes in, I'll have you sign in.
Okay. I'll do my best. Okay.
David?
Hi. Becky, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Hi, David.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Hi, David, I don't know you.
David is one of the selectmen.
Oh, all right, great, nice to meet you. Thanks for, being here.
What's the proper term? Junior select person?
Yeah.
As in junior and senior senator, the junior senator from.
Yeah.
Or you can call me a rookie.
Do you want a laptop less signal?
It always does. When we get ready to use it,
Timed out.
it goes to sleep very quickly.
Got it.
So do I.
I wish I did. I do not.
Especially for the TV show I wanna watch.
Yeah. Never see the ending.
Good evening.
Okay,
The town of, you ready?
we're recording.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't give me a heads up, so.
I'm sorry, I normally do, but I'm not used to the public hearing business. The town of Newry Planning Board will hold a public hearing at the Newry Town Office, 422 Bear River Road, Newry, on January 7th, 2026, at 6 p.m. to hear and discuss public comment of the proposed amendments to the Unified Development Review Ordinance, better known as the UDRO. A summary of the changes can be viewed at the Newry Town Office after December 23rd, 2025, Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. In addition, interested parties may submit written inquiries or comments to the Code Enforcement Officer's email address. Madam Code Enforcement Officer, have we properly posted notice of the public hearing?
Yes, and we published it twice in the Sun Journal.
And where else?
The post office, the front of this door, our website, and Facebook page.
Okay, so let the minutes show that the public hearing has been properly advertised as per state law.
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Ted Baker. I am the chair of the board. To my right is Heidi Murata, the vice chair, and to my left is Cindy White, who is the secretary. And we have tonight's alternate is Meredith Herrick. And also in attendance is Becky Bean, our recording secretary, Joelle, who is our code enforcement officer, and Loretta, who is the town administrator. And I believe all three guests have all properly signed in. Okay. We do have a quorum, so let that be established. Tonight's public hearing is to discuss proposed amendments to the UDRO. And there's, most of the process started as requirements from recent state laws, LD 427, LD 9, something or other, and 8, LD 1826, and which override town ordinances, including some of ours. So since we were going to have to make an amendment to the ordinance, I proposed that we do some other changes as well, which we will be talking about here shortly. The timeline for the amendments is to have the final draft ready to go at the beginning of February so that they can be sent to the town council for review. So basically, we have 2 more meetings after this one to hammer out any fine details that we want. And then the planning board will be asking the select board, and at your first meeting in February, to authorize expenditures to have the town council review the amendments. We will send the assuming that you will do that, we will send the amendments up to the council for review. They will have the month of February to review and get them back to us so that we can then look at their comments and make any changes that we deem appropriate during the month of March, so that the final draft can be presented to the select board in April for their certification. Once the select board certifies, then it can be placed on the warrant, and you can have the official second public hearing, which is hosted by the select board, to cover this ordinance and any other ordinances that need to be covered. So, while it sounds like May 12th is far, far away, it really is not. So, since I am the author of most of the amendments, I do not feel comfortable as being the moderator, and therefore I would like to make the motion to the board that we appoint the code enforcement officer as the moderator for this public hearing. Do I have a second on that motion?
Yes, second that.
A motion and a second to appoint the code enforcement officer as the moderator for this public hearing has been made. Any comments? Hearing none, I'll take a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Let the record show that the code enforcement officer has been appointed as the moderator, and the show is now yours.
Awesome. Hi, everybody, I'm Joelle. I love this lovely post here, so I'll move over a little bit so I can see from here. Two things. I'll start with, yes, we're gonna do the overview, and I would ask that if anyone has any questions to a specific proposed change, just put a little scribble next to it. We will come back to that because we will have a roundtable discussion at the end, and I would rather save all the questions and answers for that period, okay? That would make things easier for us as we flow through this agenda. Prepared statements will come right after I run down through these proposed changes. Becky, do I need to read all of this out loud? Or is the written Good
Joe
enough for
has
the-
a written document on, so
Yes.
if we just know like the title, or is
Yeah.
there a date and all
Okay.
that stuff?
Yep. These are the proposed UDRO changes for 2026 town meeting. You all have this in paper form in front of you.
Is this the document that you're referring to?
It starts with the agenda on one page.
Right,
And then,
yeah,
yep,
yeah,
yep.
okay.
So section 1 is the introduction. It goes into a little bit of what Ted was just talking about, how we came about making these changes. You know, this is a living document. It should change with time, and that's what we're doing here tonight. The state of Maine legislature passed some laws that immediately made us go, okay, I guess we gotta look at our ordinance. And like every other town in Maine right now, because of those the 3 LDs that are coming, either are in effect or are coming into effect, 427, 997, and 1829, that is what precipitated some of this. Definitions needed to be cleaned up, addressing the noted deficiencies in the application reviews that we've had for the last couple of applications. Current situations, proposed remedies for each issue, the strategy for the following sections detail the current situations, the proposed remedies, and then the strategy for achieving compliance with the state mandates and the changes that we outlined in the ordinance itself. It's very important that we maintain a comprehensive, enforceable, and legally compliant regulatory framework for development within Newry. So that's what the UDRO, the Unified Development Review Ordinance, does for us. It's the tool that this board uses the most. Section 2, UDRO structure. 2.1 goes into the situation as to why we have the 25 sections and how they're laid out and how over time we've added to this ordinance and kind of put in our own stop, if you will, at the end with definitions and the exhibits. So the restructuring of the ordinance, the repeal of the entire thing, and then we're gonna replace it with our new UDRO, is because if you were ever involved in writing an ordinance and then redrafting, it's the underline and the strikeouts. We would strike out 2/3 of our ordinance, all 170 odd pages of it, in order to move the definitions to the front and keep the exhibits at the back and restructure the things that we need to. So rather than do that, that's the reason behind the repeal and replace, just so everyone understands that. The 8 subsections listed under section 13, which do not fit the test of applying to all developments, like solar, doesn't fit to a site plan application or a subdivision application, excuse me. You know, that's not really a performance standard. It needed its own section, so another example of why we are repealing and replacing. Any questions so far, or am I summarizing this? Am I shrinking it too much?
Seems clear.
Okay,
Seems good.
all right. So that's why so under 2.2, the remedy, that's why we are reordering the UDRO. 2.3 is the proposal, and we will get to the enclosures towards the back of this here in just a second. I will go through those in more detail. Correcting the deficiencies noted in application reviews. What's a road, what's a driveway, what's a vehicle access? Those needed to be defined better. So we're working towards that goal. And again, I can go down through, would you like me to go through the proposals right now as I'm talking about some of these changes, or would you rather me go through all of them at the end?
I think at the end.
Okay, all right. LD, I'll go into section 4 then. LD 427 talks about parking. Our ordinance has some fairly strict parking guidelines, depending on the type of development that is proposed to come into Newry. That law went into effect September 24th, 2025. And it's all about trying to create less hurdles, if you will. I'll summarize what I think Augusta was thinking. For affordable housing, they're trying to take away some of the hurdles that towns like Newry and every other town that has a zoning ordinance has in place for parking standards. The standard family home has 2 parking spaces. If we go into multi-housing, units, you know, it's typically like 1.5, huh? And we're pretty standard for most communities in the way we had our parking regulations laid out. State of Maine took that away, home rule gone, and so we comply with that. That's what section 4 is gonna be about for LD 427. LD 997, yeah, 997, it's more about commercial districts. So if you think about, I immediately go to my head in the suburbs of Atlanta. You know, you have those 4-story, what looks like a beautiful townhouse, but the first floor is restaurants, nail salons, tax accountants, you know, all these businesses. It's a great mixed use of commercial and residential, and that's what 997 is looking to do. The design of the law has not been completely worked out. It is not in effect yet. And I don't think it's really gonna affect us that much. I mean, our zoning, a couple of our zoning districts already allow for this. LD 1829, I am gonna read this one. This LD is the third of 3 LDs passed by the 132nd legislature in June of 2025. And it's meant to attract workers to Maine businesses by amending the laws governing housing density. Like the 2 other LDs above, it preempts local ordinances. They took away home rule at Augusta, in Augusta. The thought is to remove municipal barriers to housing production, resulting in an increase to the housing supply statewide. I'll try to keep my face neutral on this one. LD 29, under remedies, LD 1829 will preempt the UDRO's dimensional requirements in regard to lot size, density, and the number of dwelling units allowed per lot. Some of our districts require 1 acre per dwelling unit, if it requires its own septic and its own well. They shrink if you're up in the resort district to, you know, if you're connected to the quasi-municipal sewer at the mountain, Sunday River Mountain Resort, or if you are on public water. There are several areas up in that, up at the resort that are connected to the mountain water. Given Newry's land valuation, which is driven by the ski resort and the second/vacation home real estate market, the topic of the qualified affordable housing development is an interesting discussion. But Newry is not unique in this regard, since many seaside towns and a few other ski towns in the state are in the same situation. QAHDs should be addressed by adding dedicated section to the UDRO. Similar to how the UDRO addresses cluster and planned unit developments, each of which are regulated in separate sections within the ordinance. We have until July 2027 to work on our dimensional requirements, and Augusta hasn't completed making their rulemaking yet on this. Yes, the law passed, but they haven't figured out exactly how this is gonna look throughout the state, or how it will be, because we're not all the same. You know, Biddeford and Newry are 2 very different communities. Street parking in Newry versus street parking in Biddeford Saco look very different. So I think Augusta has some work to do. We're not going to immediately apply the standards for 1829. The law doesn't go into effect until July 2027 for town council or town meeting type governments. So we're in a waiting pattern for that. And then section 7, the miscellaneous deletions, edits, and additions. The miscellaneous makes them sound like they might be insignificant, but that couldn't be further from the case. We've got some that are substantially, they cover a breadth of work that needs to be defined in Newry that has come to light in the last couple of applications that we don't have well defined, because things change, developments change, so this is why we went through this. And we'll go through section 6, the enclosure 6 for those details also. So the edits, you know, when you look at repealing and replacing an entire ordinance, definitions, moving, you know, all of that will take some time. So let me-
Well,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
When you talked about lot sizes,
Mm-hmm.
you said there was a few exceptions at the mountain.
Yes.
Do you know what those exceptions are?
I don't ever quote my ordinances off the top of my head, but the lot sizes are smaller automatically because they do connect to sewer and have public sewer and public water. State of Maine, minimum lot size is half acre. Newry on rural and general development is 1 acre. That's gonna be reduced to half acre if that law passes. Up at the resort, if, let's say, and this is hypothetical, because I don't quote my ordinances off the top of my head. Let's say the minimum lot size is 20,000 square feet per dwelling unit with connected to public sewer and public water. They're also gonna allow up to 4 dwelling units on that one lot now. Just to give you an idea, it could get very tight, and not just in our community, but across the state of Maine. Yeah, and it's hard, we're a resort community. I'll save my speech, never mind. All right, so, when we go back down through this, I have to have both of these open at the same time. So, under the section 2 of the UDRO structure, if you go to exhibit, am I using that, enclosure 1, enclosure 1, it goes down through the way these titles are now gonna look. The subsections and general performance standards which don't belong, so that you can see that list. And then the proposed organization or reorganization, if you will, of how these will look if the ordinance passes. Enclosure 2, yeah.
On page 3 of 3 of enclosure 1, the proposed organization, the colored, the blue ink didn't come out, but there is a reserve section in there.
Section 16?
16, that's for the future qualified
Affordable housing,
affordable housing section.
okay.
And then there's also a new section being added, and that is section 21, first responder access and fire lanes. On the original, those were both blue for being new sections,
Okay,
and they did not come through in the copy machine, so please be aware that there are 2 new sections in there that
and we're gonna go through some of those sections here in a little while. When we get the actual ordinance up in front of us, I'm gonna, rather than print 100 and odd pages for the ordinance, we're gonna bring it up on the big screen. Enclosure 2, which goes along with section 3, correcting the deficiencies noted in the application reviews. It talks about the different definitions that were edited, the criteria of approval that was edited, parking and entrance design standards that were either added or edited, and then what Ted just talked about, the first responder access and fire lanes. Enclosure 3 goes over LD 427, which is the parking. There's really not much I can say about that. State of Maine law trumps our ordinance, so we will comply with state law. Enclosure 4, LD 997, we are waiting on to see what happens with that. I think it'll have a little bit of tweaking with our definitions and our ordinances when it comes to the commercial and residential coexisting. But I don't think that will have a big impact on our UDRO. And then 1829, that is definitely, we have been advised by AvCog, we've been advised by our attorneys, hurry up and wait on LD 1829. Because it's just, that is definitely a moving target. The state fire marshal's office has some issues with it. The Maine building officials and inspectors took issue with some of the changes. So we are lobbying Augusta. So I think that will be a moving target until they nail that down. So I've gone through the overview fairly quickly. Are there any questions that I
skipped
can?
over the last one,
Oh,
enclosure 6.
sorry. Miscellaneous, yes, I did. Miscellaneous deletions, edits, and additions. There's quite a list there, I don't need to read all of this to you. What I will do for the tape recorder is list the bold, so definitions has been edited, general provisions has edits, administration section has edits, inspection, violation and enforcement section, the appeals section, application procedure and submission requirements, growth management districts and non-compliance, provisions for planned unit development, general performance standards, road design and construction standards had some edits and revisions, parking and entrance design standards, storm drainage design and construction standards, borrow pits, life safety and fire suppression, solar energy systems. All of those will be highlighted, color-coded, underlined, or crossed out when we get to the major part of the ordinance. Any questions so far? Mr. Chair, am I going too fast?
No?
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Dying to get into the meat of the thing.
Yeah, me too. Does anyone here have any prepared statements? Okay. From the planning board members, no one? Okay, so prepared statements from the public.
I've got one that I sent in, I don't know if you want me to read it, or if that's already been reviewed by everyone.
It has been emailed to everyone for the tape recorder. If you want to just summarize it quickly, like I just kind of did the overview, that would be appreciated.
Sure.
I think for brevity purposes, if you allow me, Peter, let the record show that we have received correspondence addressed to the code enforcement officer, Town of Newry, from Peter Roberts, professional engineer, who is the engineer at Sunday River Ski Resort, and with a courtesy copy to Loretta Powers, the administrator of the town. And the subject of the correspondence is UDRO 2026 proposed updates, and it's dated January 6, 2026. And we'll let the record show that that will be included as part of the minutes. Becky, you have a copy of this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that will suffice. Okay,
So that's it?
that's it for
Okay,
statements.
all right for now, all right.
Unless, Peter, you want to highlight anything?
No, I think, just looking for discussion, so whenever that's appropriate, we can do that.
Okay. That would be now. Roundtable discussion, folks. So, along with Peter's updates or suggestions and questions letter that he submitted to us, we also have the ordinance sections color-coded by Peter, which makes things handy for us to review along with the questions that he had in his packet. So I will hand those out. I'll start with the board. You got it. Becky? Peter, do you want a color
Yeah,
copy?
that would be good.
Yes, thanks.
And then I can pull up the actual edited ordinance on the big, you got one? Yep. Okay. On the big screen behind you. So this is where, if you had questions while I sped through the overview, and along with Peter's suggestions and edits, if you want to see what the ordinance edits actually look like, once I can get this to open up, there we go.
Didn't even have to stand up.
There we go. You tell me where you want to be and I'll put you there. How's that sound?
Sure.
Okay?
Do you mind if I just go through mine real quick?
I am, if you're the one who wants to start with the questions and discussion, go for it.
Or does anyone else wanna go first?
Oh, you're good, I think.
Okay, so, some clarifications, the definition of a private road, a road or way other than a driveway or vehicular entrance providing access to two or more lots. My suggestion was to make that three or more lots, because, I think, a access way to only two dwelling units, just qualifies as a driveway, right?
Run that by me again, please?
An access way to two dwelling units doesn't have to meet the road standard, correct? It's
A
supposed to-
driveway to two dwelling units. A driveway is defined as an access to two, at most, two dwelling units.
Yeah, and then the private road says providing access to two or more lots. So it's
Okay, so it
one-
should be three or
Three or
more,
more
it should be
lots.
three or more lots then.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
And then the definition about vehicular entrance on page 36. There was a new definition for commercial use. And so one of the vehicular entrance says an access way, service drive, or private road that connects a commercial or multi-unit
Yeah,
dwelling. I don't know if it made
That's a
more
good catch there. I don't have any issues with that one. Peter, let me ask you a question. If you go down, let's go in definitions. If you go over to the definition of a road, and just underneath it, we have definition of road classifications.
Mhm.
What would be your opinion of moving vehicular access to a underneath road classifications?
So
Instead of being a separate definition.
So you'd add a fourth road classification, which would be vehicular access.
Right, and basically the definition that would be written, that it is, as it's written now, would move from being a self-standing definition to being a subset of road classification. And the reason I'm suggesting this is that in the section that we haven't reviewed yet for vehicular accesses, it says that depending on the usage of that access, it has to meet neighborhood or secondary road construction standards. So, I was, after I put this all together, I said, well, maybe, what, another possibility would be to put that into the, as a part of the road classification. And I was just wondering what your thoughts would be on something like that.
So when you're talking about vehicular access, it's actually vehicular entrance?
Vehicular entrance, excuse me, vehicular entrance, move vehicular entrance as, instead of being a standalone definition to being a subset of road classification. So then you'd have primary roads, secondary roads, neighborhood roads, and vehicular entrances.
And then would you, would vehicular entrances be broken up by the number of vehicles using them?
As, that's already defined in proposed section 21B, that it states in there that depending on the use of the access, defines whether it has to be a neighborhood road standard, construction standard we're talking about. So, in a bigger picture, what separates a vehicular entrance from a road is its length. It can only be so long, and two, the curb distances are different than for roads. So on a primary road, the distance, the horizontal distance between intersections is 400 feet. If it was instead of being another road, it was a vehicular entrance, it's only, I think, 200 feet, if I remember correctly.
And so are you strictly talking about in the definitions, or are you talking about taking that whole subsection and putting it in the road standard?
There is a subsection it's not in road standards, it is in parking and entrance design, which is the next section down. And it's a brand new, it's a whole new paragraph that's already in there in the draft.
Yeah.
And it addresses it states that construction is the same as for the road standards. What's different is the curb distances. And so instead of having to apply the curb distances that would be for a neighborhood road or a secondary road or a primary road, we now have vehicular entrance that has less, so allows a closer spacing, if you will, between entrances and whatnot.
Yeah, I think if you wanted to move it in the definitions under the classification of a road, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
I was really excited that the vehicular entrance was added, because we had a project a long time ago that never got built, where we were trying to do a multi-unit development in a really small lot. And we ended up with this really weird parking lot layout to try to accommodate the neighborhood road standard. And I think in that specific circumstance, having this kind of carve out for a vehicular entrance would have made us be able to develop the site in a way that was more logical. So I think overall it's a good change. And I think
Comments from,
Yeah, just a clarifying question I have, if I understood correctly though, did you say that the vehicular access where it is within the UDRO though is separate from roads? And so would it make it confusing in that the definition of the vehicular access is included within the road definition, but yet the sections are separate? I don't have necessarily an opinion on that, but I'm just hearing that they're separate parts.
I see your point. We have two sections here, they're back to back. One of them is road design and construction standards, and immediately following that are parking lot and entrance ways.
Yeah.
The parking lot and entrance way has a lot of specifications on parking lot design,
Okay.
but does not discuss how one gets from the public way to the parking lot.
Yeah.
And that can lead into some rather contention as to, is it a road, is it a parking lot? Is it a road, is it a parking lot? And so, what came forth is that the UDRO, as it stands right now, really does not discuss or define or specify design standards for an access point to a commercial or multi-unit dwelling facility.
Yeah.
And we can get into a legal tangle here, which I don't think is probably good use of time in the public hearing, as to what is a road and what is not a road. But the intent here is to address this void that became evident, that we do not have, that we didn't really talk about entrance points to a commercial use or multi-unit dwelling. So this is an attempt to address that by reducing the curb distances. By curb distance is the horizontal distance from one intersection to another intersection, which can be rather, in the resort development district where you have much smaller lots, a 400-foot length between one intersection to another intersection on a primary road can negate some things from happening if they are applied. So that's what this is trying to address, that. Becky?
So the details of vehicular entrance would be noted in, was it parking and roads or?
Parking and entrance, and entranceways or whatever it's
Right.
called in the title.
So it would be referenced within that section.
Yes,
But you would still have a definition in the definition section for
Oh.
vehicular entrance.
yes, a vehicular entrance,
Because
the
you're using the
definition
term.
that's there now,
Right,
as proposed as a separate standalone definition.
right, I think there should be I believe, not that it matters, but I believe the definition for the term vehicular entrance should still be listed by itself in definitions, in case someone's like looking for the term vehicular entrance, they can look under V in definition. But
So,
you
To
can
keep it in alphabetical
elaborate.
order.
What's
so what if you were, if you were to handle that situation, if you were to move the definition as a subset of road classification, but then,
You can reference it to call them back to that other section.
right, and then
But you
end
should
up,
have it listed in definitions, so that,
okay, so which one would you put the reference in the road classification
um,
to see the definition, or would you put the
I think,
definition?
I think what I would do would be, what you described, I'd put a note under road classification that says vehicular entrance, see definition of
Okay.
vehicular entrance, and that
Yeah.
way, somebody
Yeah, that
looking in
makes
both
sense.
sections will find what they're looking for.
yeah,
Does that make sense?
Yep.
but if they've heard the term, it makes sense, because it's such a specific term, that they would look in the alphabetical list of definitions.
Right. kind of,
Well,
but
yeah,
you can't vote that way.
that's a good being pragmatic, yeah. All right, let's hope that other ones are a little faster than that.
Okay. Go
So-
ahead, Peter.
So, page 47, section 6A1, the appointment of an inspecting official. The select board would have the responsibility to appoint the inspecting official. I guess I wasn't clear what the process would be. Is the intent that the select board would kind of already have appointed a pre-approved list of people for the planning board to pick from, or are we gonna have to take each application before the select board after the planning board approves it and get an inspecting official appointed, or this is an exaggeration, but we seem to always get in the, like, we're gonna do this project, we wanna start on Monday, Peter, why aren't we have permits yet? And so, I think some sort of like, I guess, pre-approval, maybe not on a really contentious or large project, but on smaller projects would be helpful, just to keep things kind of moving along.
Okay, well, a little background, first of all. As the ordinance stands right now, the only reference to who appoints the IO, inspecting official, is in the definition of an inspecting official.
Not exactly where it should be.
And so I'm saying, that probably shouldn't be there. So one of the things I was trying to take care of by adding this subparagraph in 6 is make it official that it's the select board responsibility to appoint the IO, and that either the code enforcement officer and/or the planning board could make recommendations as to who it should be. Peter, your comments have some good validity to them. I think what I would suggest doing is adding to this, saying that in the absence of a IO being appointed, the CEO is the IO by default.
Rita has a comment.
I think you should say the select board should approve, not appoint. You guys would recommend a third
SJ,
party.
let's say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we should be approving it, not appointing it.
Okay.
I would think the appointment could come, I mean, you guys could suggest A, B, or C, and the select board should approve. You know, you said you preferred A to do it, and they should approve it. Because
Okay.
they don't know the engineers as well as you would.
Right.
So if I understand correctly, Loretta, you're saying that the planning board needs to, as opposed to may, make a recommendation as to the inspection official.
Yeah,
It would be shall instead of may.
yeah.
Shall instead of may. Well, that takes care of the other discussion point that we had there. Okay. Yeah, you can do that. Any comments on?
Is that still gonna cause a delay though, because you have to wait for the next select board meeting to have the approval?
Technically, yeah. Because if you guys meet after we meet, so same week.
Well, that, okay, so
I
So-
don't think it does, huh?
if we make it shall,
Mhm.
the other question is, or other situation is, when, or by when, does the IO need to be appointed?
So you could make a recommendation after the application's deemed complete, and then in theory have your approval by the time you're ready to go through
Right.
the.
Now,
Yeah.
in my opinion, the a recommendation approval of the IO has nothing to do with the application.
And I agree.
That's more to, the select board is just verifying that there's no conflict of interest between the IO and the applicant.
Well, it's also a role or a responsibility. The planning board, I don't think has that has that power
Authority.
to say, hey, you're gonna do this.
I think the intent is good. I think you're trying to create checks and balances.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of, see if there's a way we could achieve your intent and also have the IO approved and kind of establish that approval of whatever we're trying to get reviewed.
Some kind of expediency to the process.
Well, there's very little time. Now, if there's a project such as you're saying that the excavators are belching black smoke and they're itching to go, chances are it's not gonna be a very complicated project, because otherwise the planning board doesn't work that fast.
I'm just curious, like, how do other towns in the area handle this? Did AvCog, like, kind of have any sort of input on, like, what's normal or typical for this kind of thing?
I did not reach out to AvCog.
So,
Go ahead.
okay, so in my experience, I've only, the Hampton Inn down in Oxford. Code enforcement officer was the inspecting official. Except when it came to structural components, the steel, the rebar and the foundation. Then we had they had an engineer on site that gave reports to the town. That's one way of doing it, and we have worked that way. We've worked that way with several developers, we've worked that way with the mountain. It really depends on the infrastructure or the required improvements being placed on the property, or on that section of property, as to whether I feel comfortable being the inspecting official, or whether I need somebody with some initials behind their name to come in and say, yep, this, and this all meet the design standards submitted by the applicant, we're moving forward, and that's how this goes. And we've worked well with developers so far with that. I mean, we talk about it in the application process, there just wasn't anything defined in our ordinance on how to go about it, so that's, I don't think it's part of the approval. I don't think it's part of your completion of application, and I don't think it's part of the approval of a project as to when this happens.
Is there any reason that couldn't happen early on, and that you know what the intent of the project is, and so they say, I mean, you know what they're looking to develop, and they say, here's our, does it have to tie with the completion of the application? Could that be, they're presenting the project and they say who that person is right from the beginning?
I think that's the same thing that we're saying, is that it's it's separate from the
Yeah,
application.
that's what I'm hearing that, so I'm just
It,
wondering if
it,
it's done early.
it isn't, well, it isn't. Let me go back first of all. The inspecting official has no enforcement authorization.
Right.
The inspecting official, if it's a third party, reports to the code enforcement officer, and it's the code enforcement officer that has the enforcement authorization. So if there's to be a stop order issued, it doesn't come from the IO, it comes from the code enforcement officer. The IO would sit there and submit their report to the code enforcement officer with a courtesy copy to the planning board and the select board. And then it would be the code enforcement officer that takes the action to do that. So the code enforcement officer is not out of the picture. It's just that they may not be the boots on the ground doing the actual inspection. To get to Cindy's point, well, there's one other factor in here, in that the appointment of a third-party IO carries a little bit of a financial obligation from the applicant. In that, and this is where we start to have to keep track of extra fees that have been levied and how they're being balanced and kept track of, because the extra fee that comes for an IO is separate from the extra fee that comes for a consulting engineer to help the planning board review the application. And you should not be running the balance of one into the other.
Correct.
They should be clean and separate. So at some point, one possibility is that the applicant comes through, walks out the door smiling, i.e. approved application, and then 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, gets a letter from the code enforcement officers, saying, by the way, engineering firm ABC, or Acme Engineering will be your IO, and we need to have a check for $10,000 to cover the expenses.
That's where I don't like that plan. I don't want this to drag out, Peter, any more than you do.
Yeah.
So, the question, okay, well, do you blend in the appointment or the IO into the application process? Or do you handle it separately by maybe adding it to our checkoff sheet
I was just gonna
that-
suggest that.
that now becomes a legal size sheet of paper? In that, during the application process or review, the planning board brings up the IO and the fact that if a third-party IO is appointed, an additional fee will be levied to the applicant to pay for that.
And the motion is made to that effect.
The motion would be if the board wants to recommend to
Right,
the select board, which it should.
right.
To me, that's a procedure, that's an internal procedure measure to the planning board, not something that might need to be reflected in the UDRO, although that's just my opinion.
Right, but the motion being made gets it into the finding of facts.
The motion being made gets it in the finding of facts.
And it lets the applicant know, by the way, you might have a $10,000 fee, just as your heads up. So it's not a surprise, because what if the excavators aren't running and ready to rock and roll on a Monday, and it's 5 months from now, Peter comes back and says, hey, I'd like to get my permit. I say, great, give me $10,000 for your third-party inspector. I don't think any developer in the area is gonna appreciate that.
So there, in the ordinance itself, I think, other than adding a blurb that says that if an IO is not appointed, the CEO will be the IO by default, just to cover any mistakes that way. The only other thing that I could see happening, Peter, would be perhaps saying that the IO has to be approved. Approved.
I heard that.
No later than 5 days before the start of construction. Which is the same time that you have to provide your performance guarantee by.
So would it be the IO if applicable, would need to be, because not every project needs an IO? Is that true?
Well, every project would have an IO because the code enforcement
Oh,
officer
okay.
would be if there wasn't a
Yeah,
third
so
party.
every project has an IO.
Yeah.
If one is not approved, then it's the CEO
That's right.
by default.
Okay.
The question is the timing of the approval. Yeah, I got it, Loretta. The timing of the approval such that, the applicant is not caught by surprise some period down the road that they have to ante up a significant extra fee. And I think we can do that by not putting it into ordinance, but by putting it into our review procedures for an application and move that check-off sheet to a legal size.
Yeah, so it's at least discussed
Yeah,
during,
discussed and motion made.
yeah.
Heidi?
I just had a question about the appointment of an IO. Like, I feel like the applicant should be able to have a discussion with the code enforcement officer, say which way the project, that you think that it's gonna go. And then is it always gonna be the responsibility of the board to find the IO? Or would it be the responsibility of the applicant to provide a suggested IO?
We've done it, so, in the projects that I've worked on in the 4 years I've been here, we have Goral Palmer, who helps us with our review of anything that, we're not engineers, so anything that needs to be reviewed, stormwater, erosion, Goral Palmer does that for us for whatever the developer is doing. And Goral Palmer has also acted as a third-party inspector, the IO, because they're familiar with the project. And the applicant has sat in the meeting and gone, we're okay with that. So they can be the same person. It could be Goral Palmer as an example for both. Goral Palmer is the engineering firm, just for those of you who don't know. One of the projects, it was minor enough that, I raised my hand and said, I'm comfortable with this, I can do this. And the applicant was okay with that.
But in either case,
Right,
the applicant has no say.
no.
And Heidi, one thing that would concern me about the applicant suggesting an IO is a conflict of interest. That's like the fox suggesting Wile E. Coyote be the IO.
For the in-house, for the hen house?
I'm sorry?
I said for the hen house.
Yeah, for the hen house. Thank you for filling that out.
Well, if they have letters behind their name, then they should be doing inspections, but.
Well, while I agree with you, we've also had problems with some folks with letters behind their names that,
So when you say, so you're gonna just say, like, Goral Palmer would be the alternate for, I mean, the applicant would know right away that that was gonna be who you're gonna use.
maybe. I mean, it would be a discussion we would have in front of the applicant. It's not gonna be done privately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many engineers willing to come to Newry also. That list is short.
Yeah, very.
So, another scenario that pops to mind, there's been a couple projects where I essentially acted as the IO, even though I was also the applicant and would send a weekly report to you
Yeah.
as the enforcement person. Does that scenario go away now, or is that still something that we can work out, or?
I don't think that goes away.
But then that's somebody inspecting their own work, that doesn't
That's
really make sense, you just talked about
That's a
box.
conflict of interest there.
But we have asked for those inspection reports of Sunday River for several of their projects.
Okay, so, Peter, how would the town,
Maybe in that scenario, Joelle is technically the IO, and then she's relying on me to provide her with information information, and she's free to come up
And we've done that, I mean,
verify it as needed.
yeah, you
That-
have,
And this is
yeah,
generally, I'm generally talking about pretty small projects too.
yeah.
That would probably, where the IO, or not, in case, probably not the IO, that's the code enforcement officer, because they are the enforcer, stipulates that the applicant submit periodic inspection reports.
I think if we go back and read the minutes to several projects, that's exactly how it was worded. Yeah.
So I think that would not go away.
Okay.
Okay, I don't think you'll see the planning board saying that Peter Roberts, you will be the IO for the Sunday River expansion of so-and-so, so-and-so.
A property next to your house.
I guess I'm just worried about like it being fair for everybody. Like, I'm wondering like how you actually decide whether or not you're the IO or you have to.
I'm gonna speak right up and tell you whether or not I'm qualified. If it's going to be road construction with the different, I'm not gonna get the word right, but they give different elevation points as they work their way up, because everything here is up, a road, huh? And I don't have the technology, I don't have the equipment, I don't have any of that type of knowledge. I'm not an engineer, I'm certainly not a civil engineer. Can I go and read an SW Cole report on the sieve size of the soils that they're using, of the gravel or sub-base that they're using? Yeah, I can understand that, that's pretty basic. But that's about where my knowledge is gonna stop. So this board, whether it's you individuals or somebody 10 years from now looks, oh, Joelle can do that, I'm gonna speak up and say, no, I can't.
I think to cover your point, Heidi, is, especially if it's on the checkoff list, the board is gonna discuss what we're comfortable with for inspections. And that is definitely gonna be a function of the complexity of the application that's in front of us.
Right.
If it's a minor subdivision that's, all the lots are street side of a public road, and there's zero infrastructure improvement required.
Right. Verify culvert size, that was.
Yeah. If
Pretty
there's no required improvements, it's just this, basically a lot split,
Yeah, that's what it's like.
then the board would probably say that there's nothing really technical here, as opposed to a major subdivision of 85 lots with roads and firefighting water cisterns and drainage ponds and retention ponds and
Right.
and all sorts of required improvements that clearly the code enforcement officer, one, doesn't have the time to do it, and two, doesn't have the technical background to do it.
Right.
I'm just,
So-
I was
so I
just
think-
trying to figure out like who, is it always gonna be that girl Palmer or is it gonna be somebody else?
Oh, no, we have
Yeah.
3 right now working in town. We have 3 different engineering firms working in town for different projects right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And past experience from past applications, early on in the application, we start to search for prospective.
And those are usually the ones already here working in the area. They're familiar with the area, they know what the drive is like, they know what the time commitment's gonna be for them to get up here. 'Cause we're not close to Portland or Lewiston, Auburn, or Brunswick. So it's nice to work, and I know who they are in the area.
So to tidy this up then, so we can move on, Peter, I will add to that subparagraph, the default clause for the CEO, and that also the time period, the latest that an IO can be appointed, which would be the same as the performance guarantee being provided to the town. And then separate from that, the board will adjust its application checkoff sheet to include a discussion of the IO, who will be the IO, and make sure that the applicant is well aware of the financial burden that might come if a third-party IO is appointed. Any further summary? Yes, Loretta?
I just heard from Erica at AFCOG. She said the legislation says municipal officials, but if the town wants to designate a planning board to appoint, that would be okay too.
We don't appoint.
Point, right,
Right.
but in this, you're saying appoint, the
Yeah,
IO.
yeah. I would, personally, I would prefer to have the select board, the ones who are the executive, closest to the
Right.
executive branch of government, be the one that does that,
Yeah.
as opposed to the planning board, it's strictly a review board. That's
Right.
that's just how I
Yeah,
feel.
no, I was asking her what she, because she's watching it on.
Oh.
Hi, Erica.
All right, Peter, you have something short that we can discuss?
All right, let's see how easy this is. So, section 10C2D6 on page 65. There's a new paragraph about having to list all encumbrances on the parcel to be developed. There's some very large parcels that we work on, and so I didn't know if this could be modified to only require encumbrances that affect the development itself. If we got a parcel that's over 1,000 acres.
Good point, good point.
Or, like we ran into with the deed being so long, we maybe come up with some list of all the encumbrances on some of these parcels that we work regularly on, and then refer to pages of that, I don't know, something to just lower the amount of paper.
Could we use the abutter setback, the 500 feet?
I'm sorry?
Could we use the abutter setback, 500 feet?
Well, what Peter's saying is, encumbrances that affect the project site, whatever that might be, as opposed to the parcel, correct?
So as an example, this summer we did a project that I would say in total was about half an acre, in the middle of a 1,550 acre parcel. So if I'm looking for, approval for that project, providing a list of every encumbrance on that parcel seems to add a lot of things to the compiled application that just aren't really relevant to the project. And maybe that's just me being lazy, but,
I think there's already a solution in place to that.
Section 22?
Well, I don't know what it is now. But
Right, waivers, Peter,
wait, okay.
submission waivers.
yeah.
So we, in that scenario, we would request a waiver if it's a minor
A
project.
submission of waiver, to be exact.
And then related to that, it seemed like there was a, it seemed like the definition change of total acre of the parcel made it so if you're calculating density, you're stripping out any land that's not suitable for building from your total acreage that could be applied to your density for like multi-unit housing, as an example. I think it would be to the developer's benefit to have that included so that the developable area could be made more dense, and then it would incentivize the developer to also use the land that's not suitable for development as the green space to,
What was the reference?
it's the same section, it's,
It's on the very next page.
15B, are we in? Or,
With the B on the top,
yeah.
which is
Oh,
total
the
acreage
issue has
versus.
to take the word is total acreage to total development area.
What are you talking about, 6? that one we were just talking about. Yes.
Peter, are you talking about
six.
15B?
No,
We're
the
about
one above
six, I
it.
think. The one we were just talking about,
Okay.
where it includes that.
The development area is used only in cluster development.
So it seems like this is changing the way, density is gonna be calculated for cluster development. And so the reason this came to my mind is because we own a lot of property in the floodplain. And so in my mind, if we're gonna do cluster development, it's both the town, it's to our advantage and to the town's advantage to use the floodplain as the kind of, I use the word green space, but the open area to offset the, density of the cluster development. But it seems like the wording here, strips that out, and so I wanted to see, A, if that's the intent, and B, if it's not the intent, does it make sense to change the wording, or am I overcomplicating this?
Just clarifying, you're talking about page 65, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
page 65, what were his two, that his original plain area that he was talking about.
Right,
where
but he
was-
references section 18E. This is 18E, in case
Okay.
anybody wants to know that, what that was. So
Okay,
You
I
have
see what
this
you're
in
saying.
front of you, I decided I'd put that also in front of you.
Okay, good. So you're saying, you're questioning whether or not we should be including and land not suitable for building in that section, because you're saying, is it setting us up for that as being taken out when we're looking at total acreage? Is that what you're?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're saying, should we be including that in that definition now, in that total acreage of parcel to be developed?
So it's really the very last part, needs to be listed and not included in the total, that's the part that I'm questioning if that should be
You need to make
clarified.
me, I can make it bigger.
Okay, 18 is cluster development, correct? Oh, no, 18 is performance standards.
Yep.
18 is performance standards. So we're saying, in the performance standards, land not suitable for building. The following areas are not, okay, so there's no change there. So what we're changing then is in the, submission requirements, saying that total acreage of parcel to be developed, any encumbrance on the parcel such as a right-of-way easement and land not suitable for development need to be listed and not included in the total.
So what I guess the comment I'm trying to make is, if I'm gonna do cluster development, the land not suitable for development should be included in the total, because that should be, part of that, undeveloped area that's set aside to.
So without going in and refreshing my memory on cluster development, I can't say if that's already dealt with in the standards for a cluster development.
Okay. I guess rather than encumber everybody's time, maybe we'll take a,
I'll take a look at that, but the intent here was to, well, make sure that we weren't including, 40-degree pitches
Right,
as part of the,
right, anything over 20% you can't build on. Right.
but I'll have to go in and check the cluster development. So your point is you want the cluster development to be protected so that you can do the common area in the floodplain as your
or on the
example.
side of the really steep mountain.
That'd be a ski slope, wouldn't
Private ski slope.
Related to that, if I'm doing a subdivision, it seems like the land suitable, not suitable for development then becomes, not able to apply to the total, to the minimum lot size. And so, if the minimum lot size is a half an acre as an example, and I've got pockets of land not suitable for development in my parcel, do those areas not count against the minimum half acre, or can I have a half acre with a suitable building envelope and then half of the lot is not suitable for building?
Okay, I see where you're coming at. And if we were to remove land not suitable for building as per the performance standards, and just add the encumbrances or right-of-ways,
That makes more sense to me.
Just strike that,
Personally.
and land not suitable for building.
yeah. The intent there was to make sure that, I think, when that was put in there, was really to get the easements well documented.
Yeah, and I sometimes overcomplicate these, and so I think the other intent is,
No, I will, if I can remember all this in my chicken writing. I will take out the reference to that, although we still end up with we still have the performance standards that will apply to all. It may or may not be an issue, so.
and I can't sell somebody a lot that's not buildable.
So good, I'm glad to hear that. Okay,
Could I make a minor note, just in that we're talking about, we've been going over about the fact of land not suitable for development is like steep cliffs, and that's the green space, but I think it's also just important to note that sometimes, land suitable for development, sometimes you may wanna have a nice park that's in a space, if you're doing a large multi-scale development and always making your steep cliffs and your wetlands, your green spaces, and always, just a minor note is we're making that sound acceptable all the time.
right. Okay, Peter, what else do you wanna parley with?
Okay, next one was 15B on page 105. This was really just clarification. My understanding is that the intent of the old paragraph wasn't changing, and we were just trying to remove the references that are not.
Let me get to 105 here. But yes, that's, if I remember correctly, that was one that at some point before I was around, there used to be, for the education of the board, there used to be, a long time ago, at least 10 years ago, two sections in the UDRO, one that was for subdivisions and one was for site plan review. And back around the early teens, those sections were eliminated, and we became the Unified Development Review Ordinance. The name was still there, but that the decision was made that there was no distinction between separate applications or review procedures for a site plan from a subdivision. And when those two sections were eliminated, the review of the ordinance missed that reference that was on page 105. And so I came across that, and I said, that needs to be corrected. So that's what that's all about. Proposed plan unit developments shall be reviewed as a major subdivision and as a site plan when the applicant proposes to construct and/or develop non-residential uses. That's the new wording.
Yeah, I guess when I read that, I thought a very literal interpretation would be that any non-residential development would be reviewed as a major subdivision and a site plan, which wouldn't be the case if there's no residential.
No, we're talking about a planned unit development.
And is that is that a definition in the definitions section?
I believe there is, have to go in there or not, but a planned unit development, we actually, no, I guess,
That is a definition.
that has Farm Village is a cluster development. I don't,
Maybe I just missed the fact that it's in the definitions.
yeah,
It's, it is a.
It's a definition.
yeah, it is a definition, so there is, and which is what?
You getting there?
A planned unit development is a residential or mixed-use land development which is developed under unified management, is planned as a whole according to comprehensive and detailed plans including roads, utilities, lots or building sites, open spaces and preserved natural features, recreational facilities, and design principles for proposed buildings, is reviewed and approved as a subdivision by the planning board, and in addition, is subject to the requirements of this section, may be developed in clearly identified stages, and provides for the operation and maintenance of common facilities.
And so that covers the clarification that I wanted, so you can skip that.
Okay, so we're good for that one then,
Mhm.
all right.
So the next one was section 18D on page 114. There was kind of a general comment from you, Ted, about the relationship of proposed buildings to the environment not being easily enforceable. And so it seemed to me that maybe the town would want to avoid establishing a super strict architectural standard and either remove these or turn them into recommendations or general guidelines.
Well, that, I'm hoping to hear from our town council on this. I would not be surprised if that whole section D goes away
Okay,
in its entirety.
I guess my comment is that I support that, so we'll move on.
That's, you know, as it says there in my comment, the Maine Municipal Association Planning Board Manual says, hey, avoid these nebulous requirements, and this, to me, was a good example. All right, cool, any more comments on that? Moving on to the next one.
Section 19A on page 135. We've talked about this in the past, but the new wording about existing and proposed roads having to be suitably improved for the proposed development, I guess seemed somewhat like we were gonna be the only people affected by this, because we own a lot of the private roads in the town and have a lot of other developers that own parcels that are accessed by our private roads. Some of the discussion among our corporate team said they felt like that was a little unusual, that the town would make a private road owner upgrade their road without the town taking over the road as a town road. So that just seemed a little unusual, and then a couple of the specific things that we wanted to preserve. Clarify that the suitable improvements would only be required to the point of entry and not the entire length of the road to its end. And then clarify the rights and responsibilities of the developer and the owner of the road. Trying to avoid a situation where a different developer owns land that's accessed by our private road and now has approval from the planning board contingent on us making improvements that we didn't agree to make, or
Didn't budget for it.
us being forced to make those improvements or forced to allow them to make the improvements, which we didn't want. So there's just a lot of stuff in here that could affect us potentially. And then there was another note in here just asking if there's, if the town could kind of put together a list of other landowners that might be affected by this, or other owners of private roads that might be affected by this, or if this is, you know, a problem that extends way beyond us, or if this is just something that's gonna only affect us.
We had a pretty extensive discussion about this last time.
We've been
Because we
talking,
talked about that effectively, the road owner could refuse to do the improvements, and then the developer would not be able to do any any type of improvement on his property.
And I think it's a bigger question than just our ordinance and a landowner. I think it also comes down to how, these could be very old deeds giving rights of way and easements to cross over these roads, private roads, legally. I mean, what is your obligation to these private landowners? What is, I think there's more questions than just our ordinance that we have to consider here. I think our legal counsel's gonna have a field day with this one.
We pay him enough.
I mean, part of the questions are that if you have a major development go in and the road hasn't been improved, then fire and safety access could be really compromised if there was an emergency. So those were the types of conversations that we were having because it was really about safety first.
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, who actually has the responsibility to do those improvements? And we did talk about the public road conversions.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how that happens, and if that's an option, and what that costs the town. Because then at the incumbent, the
That was a comment that got kicked around in our management team, was like, part of the reason the taxes are low in the town is because we have plowed roads. So why is the town trying to like strong arm us into doing things we don't wanna do with our roads? Wouldn't it make more sense for the town to adopt the roads and then the town could kinda do whatever they want because it's their roads?
No.
Well, and on the flip side of that, what's the responsibility of the private road owner to talk to these large-scale lot owners that are on Realtor.com right now that can put in 137 homes on that one lot? Where does the responsibility start and stop for all kinds, for not just the town or the private road owner or the lot owner? We're also we have unorganized territories that are gonna end up using private roads as well as our public roads.
Time out.
We can go down a rabbit hole, Ted.
Yeah.
that's a hearing.
An applicant for a subdivision has to meet the 21 criteria of approval. One of those is traffic. So the applicant in their application needs to provide evidence that the increase in use of a off-site road that is not a public way is sufficient to meet that additional use. So, if we go to our road classification and all of a sudden a new subdivision is going to push the volume number of parcels serviced by an off-site road from one classification. So what used to be a secondary road, now by definition, because of what it's servicing, becomes primary road. The applicant has the burden of proof to provide evidence that off-site road, one, what is the anticipated new use, and two, that the existing or proposed improvements will accommodate that. So if you have a off-site private road that is 20 feet wide, 10-foot lanes, meets the definition of a secondary road, it's existing, a new subdivision comes in, and then you're gonna increase the traffic load on the road such that if you were to apply the standards in the ordinance, that road would have to be a primary road with 22-foot wide lanes and 4-foot shoulders and 60-foot right of way. the applicant has to show that that's gonna be met. Does the planning board really care who does that improvement?
Ted, I'm trying to understand what are you trying to make a case here that you don't need that section because it's covered under the traffic section?
No, I'm making this case here and that this reinforces the traffic section. In
I'm just
that,
trying to follow.
the traffic standard criteria is the boilerplate that comes out of the state statute. And it's just that, it's boilerplate, it's not very specific.
Hmm. I do see his point of 6A seems like a very clear point would be an easy acceptable
So,
piece.
so in the situation of an off-site private road, I hope that even before the application comes to the town, that the subdivider and the proprietor of the off-site road, the owner of the off-site road, have worked out some arrangements.
Yeah, I think one of the other big concerns we have too is, a lot of the roads are too constrained to be brought up to the current standards, and so without waivers, this would kind of just cripple anyone's ability to do anything in a lot of the parts of the resort district, just because of the way the existing roads are.
There is a provision in the UDRO that addresses that, in that if the planning board's wise review determines that the existing road is adequate.
So the requirement to make the suitable improvements could be potentially waived if there's, some combination of traffic studies or whatever to demonstrate that it's not gonna cause some safety hazard by keeping it the way it is.
I think that's, it's gonna require some good writing on the applicant's part to present the argument with supporting evidence that that's the case. That would include traffic studies, it would include inspection reports of the road, it would include the feasibility study. Is it feasible to upgrade the road, or is it not feasible to upgrade the road? Does the road already have the 60-foot right-of-way? But it was just not built to it was built to a secondary road standard and not a primary road standard. There's all sorts of, each application is going to be different. To answer your earlier question, as far as I know, the uniqueness of off-site private roads is probably 99.9% Sunday River.
Hmm.
I don't think of any other off-site private roads. It's possible that the land above Outward Bound wants to be subdivided, and they want to, and therefore they're gonna approach the owners of Outward Bound to expand their right-of-way that they have across their property. That's another example where that would be, there's a lot, a sizable lot that exists with just the right-of-way over another lot.
But the way that you're proposing the ordinance is that someone somehow could possibly have to improve it if the traffic impedes access.
If the board's opinion is that from the evidence submitted, it does not safely meet the criteria for approval.
So a traffic study would be required, core testing of how the road was built, because
none of us were present when the roads were built. I mean, there's ways that an engineer can satisfy or prove that it needs to be
Yeah,
brought up to
so yeah,
standard,
we're
one way or
talking,
the other.
we're talking a traffic study, we're talking an engineering study,
Mhm.
that's gonna look not only at how the road was built, but how's the road being maintained,
Yeah.
and what's the forecast, is the forecast, correct? So, it's quite possible that the planning board would go out and seek the consultation of a traffic engineer that specializes in those situations.
So,
Is this, are we helping, are we getting something?
I think so, but, I think it'd be nice to see some of this kind of captured in the paragraph. Does it make sense for us to kind of put our heads together separately and figure out some thoughtful ways that we could, in a really brief way, outline in the paragraph that, you know, the expectation that some of this could be waived if we can demonstrate that it's not a safety issue?
I think the board would welcome any suggestions, like, if you wanna put something on paper, we'd be happy to look at that and weigh it, I think would be,
In our January 21st meeting, that'd be a
Mhm.
good- just looking at your
Yeah.
timeline, that would be,
yeah, we got that, and we got at the latest, the first one in February, but.
Yeah, maybe I'll, sit down next week and just see if there's a way to, without turning this into, you know.
Yeah, and if you can't find it, contact Joel, we'll point you to the section in the UDRO that talks about the planning board being able to sit there and say, hey, the existing road is what it is, and they can handle it type of thing. I think it's probably in the road section
Well, it's 14 right now, I don't know
19.
what it is now.
19. Yeah. All right, Peter.
There was in section 19, I guess this is a few pages later. Page 141.
David, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. You're all doing a very good job. Keep up the good work. It reminds me of the times that I was on the planning board years ago.
Is this the culvert
Brings back a
question?
lot of memories.
Is this the culvert question?
Yeah, my suggestion was we leave the ability to use corrugated culverts that are over a certain size, and if we wanted to take it a step further, have a requirement that they're embedded.
So, the minute I read your paragraph, I immediately went back to repairing of the Summit Road. I was like, oh yeah, those are metal. My experience with metal culverts only comes from driveways, 15, 18, maybe up to 24-inch culverts.
Yeah, those are terrible.
Those are, and they freeze up quick, plastic is better for driveways, so I am open to having a conversation about that, if we wanna do that here, or can you?
No, why don't I just write up a blurb and see if it makes sense to you?
Okay, that's,
I'll take you up on that,
that's good.
thank you.
Since that was one of the few inputs from somebody else other than myself and the.
No, we don't want any metal culverts.
Okay, Peter.
Okay, and then section 20, A7, page 145. The rewording of paragraph 7 says required off-street parking for all commercial land uses shall be located on the same lot as the principal building or use, and maybe this is something, again, that we just handle through waivers, but there's a lot of buildings.
145, what's the section, 7?
27, yeah.
Required off-street parking of our commercial land use shall be located on the same lot as the principal building of use. The planning board may allow the required or provided off-street parking be located within 300 feet measured along
I don't know if this was a comment to try to align with one of the legislations that went through the state, but having the ability to put it on a budding lot if it's adjacent to the development would be helpful. helpful, especially where, I guess, the example I threw out there was, we've had discussions about doing some wholesale renovation of White.A.T Lodge, which who knows if that'll ever happen, but the adjacent parking lot is on a different tax map lot.
Interesting.
Okay, if we, okay, so right now, I'm suggesting that we insert the word commercial, which should be commercial use. Or commercial land uses shall be located on the same lines of principle, and do away with the other ones, and the other, everything that we're doing away with deals with. So you would still think that for commercial use, you'd like to have the option of,
And mixed use as well,
is what?
and mixed use.
All right, well, okay,
Was this?
there we get into a conflict with 427.
Yeah, the
For
state law.
commercial, you wouldn't, right?
If you strictly do commercial use, then I don't think 427 comes into play. If you're gonna put residential in there, 427 comes into play, and it's quite clear what the requirements are for that.
Yeah, I don't know, I guess I don't know how we get around that, but like, if the developer owns a whole bunch of lots together, then you've got these somewhat arbitrary lot lines bisecting your parcel, your larger parcel that you're trying to develop, and then you're trying to like shoehorn things in different places that they don't make sense because of these lines. I don't know if the state allows some way around that, or.
Is that what we supposed to do?
I was gonna ask a question. If Sunny River was planning to do some type of renovation and those two lots are abutting, could you come before the planning board to combine the lots into a single parcel before you do that?
I don't know.
Would that make more sense, because then that would rezone that and allow you to have your parking on the same parcel?
Does anybody want to answer me before I jump into that?
I was looking at you for an answer, because I've never
Okay.
seen that done.
All right, off-site parking agreements under LD 427 must allow a developer to satisfy municipal parking requirements through an off-site parking agreement with existing facilities located within a quarter mile of the development site.
The existing facilities was the part that I
Yeah,
couldn't quite figure out there, so
Neither could I.
we can't build a new parking lot 15 feet away from the proposed development if it's technically on a different lot.
You just do it first.
ask, yes,
And
ask
it's
Augusta.
What comes first, the building or the parking lot? The parking lot.
So we'd have two different applications, and the parking lot application would come first.
Probably, could be.
You know, well, I mean,
Those waiver ones?
okay,
Was that?
Would this be one of those waiver ones that you noted, like, cause it makes complete sense that the parking is on the parcel that's immediately adjacent to where the,
Right,
I mean, that makes complete sense that you would be able to do that.
yes, it makes sense to us, so it didn't
but
make
again,
us-
if you just
Yeah, yeah.
rezoned it and made it a
What's
single
the
parcel, then you
downside?
don't have the problem.
If they wanna redo their deed, yes, but there might be for some reason, Sunday River has kept all their lots, lines as they exist, and they are a bunch of separate lots, whether they're 1,500 acres or 20.
So then that's on their impetus.
Yeah.
I mean, we always say that, it's
Yeah.
on the applicant.
It's on the applicant. Yeah.
So then they should combine that lot, and then they will meet the requirement.
Yeah, they could.
Interesting.
Like, what would the downside be to combining, getting rid of the arbitrary outlines?
It's just my time.
Time, you have time.
Yeah, that's it, simple.
Heidi, you are right, it's the applicant's choice.
Well, it's a waiver, and then that's putting
Or-
the impetus on the board
Right.
to actually break the UDRO, or it's the applicant to do the correct zoning so that they can meet their ordinance.
Well, and then you have the waiver would run risk of being afoul of 427.
Right,
Right,
yes, then we'd be breaking state law.
right. So it doesn't
And maybe
make
that will
sense.
get repealed.
Is that the one that's still under review?
No,
No,
this is one that,
427's in
yeah,
effect.
it became law in September of this year.
420,
last year.
427 says that the town can only require one parking space per dwelling unit. Period.
Right, period.
Alright, well,
And that but,
Yeah, it's a residential, right?
per dwelling unit, that
Yeah,
would be.
dwelling unit, right, yeah.
But if the subdivider approaches the town and says, I have a, what's it word, I have a,
Off-site parking agreement.
I have an off-site parking agreement that handles all my parking requirements, that you don't even have to provide one parking space.
We know how much everyone's gonna love hauling their skis a
Which-
quarter mile.
which the, will allow for a dwelling unit or a multi-unit dwelling unit with no parking. And then 2 years after building, all those units are in the short-term rental pool. And the renters show up with 5 cars. The practicality is, okay, but that's not,
in short, if this is just to get us in alignment with 427, then
I will look at it again. There is rulemaking coming out in 427 that has not been finalized, may be finalized this month. It might shed some light on this, it might not shed some light on this. That from your point, the issue is, hey, if I have adjacent lots, that they're separate parcels, can I park on one and build on the other? Is basically what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll have to, so the danger is that 5 years down the line, that lot that's being used for parking then gets sold and gets developed.
Right.
That would have-
So,
That's interesting, would there be anything in the deed
so,
that?
so,
So we
so,
just have to tie it up in an off-site parking agreement, so.
you would have to tie it up in a non-site parking agreement type of unit,
Yeah.
type of thing. To do that, so. Okay,
So the next one, section 20, subsection D, paragraph 6,
what page is that?
148.
148. Turnaround areas, looking at the fire truck access in section 21, if the vehicular entrance is less than 150 feet deep, it seems like the requirement for a full turnaround would be waived. So I wanted to have a clarification of that in this section. One of the issues, that's been an issue with a lot of multi-unit development that we've looked at on smaller lots. It's really difficult to fit a full tractor trailer turnaround, which is essentially what they're looking for in the road standard onto a small lot. And so I think if the intent is to do that, I just wanted to see it clarified.
I'll have to take a look at that, and talk with the representative of the AJD or whatever that's called.
AHJ,
AHJ.
authority having jurisdiction.
That's an interesting point, in that the turnaround requirements for cul-de-sacs and dead-end roads is
Quite large compared to what we're looking at here.
quite large compared to what we're looking at here, so I'll have to take a look at that, see what's up.
Okay.
Again, this is an attempt to fill a void that was not addressed has not been addressed in the ordinance previously. And in fact, all the standards came out of the National Fire Protection NFPA one,
Section 18.
section 18. And I'll work a little bit more with
Yeah.
Joel and seeing about
Making
finding
a
that.
smaller cul-de-sac or hammerhead for the vehicle entranceways or driveways, the 15 by 25, makes sense for those. Dead-end roads, that's different. Those cul-de-sacs need to be quite big.
They're designed to accommodate a 60-foot tractor trailer truck, and I think what I'm understanding here is the intent is that on a vehicular entrance, you wanna accommodate a fire truck, but not necessarily a full tractor trailer.
Unless the intended use is to have tractor trailers there.
Yeah,
Turnaround provision is not designed into a parking area or other similar feature, then a turnaround shall be provided measuring 15 by 25.
okay.
So, but this is for driveways and vehicular entrances, so that we did reduce it for those defined definitions.
I think that is the clarification I was
Okay.
looking for.
Yep,
And while we're talking about vehicular entrances, the distance, I think, will increase from 200 to 300 feet.
yes.
Between.
The max distance of a vehicular entrance can be no more than 300 feet. After that, it becomes a private road.
Yep, okay.
And that will accommodate your entrance into parking lot 3 and exit from parking lot 3.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
Code enforcement officers don't like to work backwards. I don't wanna go there.
Okay, moving right along.
Section 21, page 153, the applicability A1, I thought it'd be helpful if the words fire department access road and fire lane were defined in the definitions in section 3. I'm making the assumption that a fire lane refers to a static parking area for a fire truck. And just, I think it'd be helpful if that was clarified.
Mm-hmm,
Okay,
that was easy.
Then further down on the same page, section C, subsection C, paragraph 3, referring to fire department access roads, they shall be designed and maintained to support the imposed live load of the heaviest emergency fire apparatus, and shall be surfaced to provide all weather driving capabilities. I think we could probably choose like some ASHTO standard that basically just rolls that all up, so you.
if you would provide this to us, we would be happy to do that.
Okay.
Again, the NFPA, I think, was trying to accommodate various parties in this.
And they're typically all lawyers, so yes, having an engineered standard would be excellent, thank you.
I think something that would accommodate any apparatus that you might buy in the future, instead of like, oh, we bought a new fire truck, now we gotta change the standard.
Yeah, no.
And then we already covered the last one, so that's all. I did have one other question that wasn't on here. One of the legislative decisions talked about removing, the provision for subdivisions to require individual homes to be sprinklered as opposed to having a fire pond or something like that.
Correct.
Is that still under review at the state level?
1829, yeah.
1829 takes effect in July of 27 for us. It will have a substantial impact on the town in density as well as perhaps fire suppression. There's been no provisions to accommodate 1829 at this time because after consulting with the main office of community affairs, who is the subject matter expert on this, there is two things. There is rulemaking in effect, and there's also quite likely amendments to the state law as a result of substantial feedback from various municipalities.
So that isn't being incorporated, that's just something I gotta keep an eye on. I just, if
Right.
that
Yeah.
is,
Right now, the fire suppression standard says, as a subdivider, either sprinkle or put in the deed, require the builder or the owner to sprinkle, or you construct firefighting water storage facilities, which is now only can be a cistern of 60,000 gallons or more. And with distance requirements from the properties, et cetera, et cetera. So, there are several different viewpoints and arguments for this. One that differentiates the purpose of a sprinkler to the purpose of having a storage facility for firefighting water. And that is that the sprinkler is a life-saving measure. Its sole intent is to provide sufficient time for the occupants of a dwelling to exit. It's not intended to save the dwelling. The firefighting water storage facility is not there to accommodate the immediate exit of occupants from a building, but rather to save the building. So you have life safety and fire suppression, two very separate things. I'm uncomfortable that we allow a subdivider to choose one or the other. And we have subdivisions in town where there are properties that will burn to the ground because there's no way that the fire department will be able to get up there with a tanker once, much less twice or 3 or 4 times. So it was funny because before LD 1829 came in, I was saying, okay, how can we do this so that we require both sprinkling and storage for firefighting water? Now it looks like the sprinkling is gonna go away, and so it's probably gonna be that subdivisions will be required to provide firefighting water storage facility.
yeah, when we can discuss this, I guess, when the legislation is like kind of clarified.
But it's something that, it's an interesting one, because now then you say, okay, well, you're gonna require a minor subdivision to also provide that 60,000 gallon cistern? Or is it just gonna be major? And, well, what's the difference, you know?
It seemed, in my opinion, like the legislature took away the better of the two options, and then also with the town's minimum fire cistern sizing, minor subdivisions would essentially just not be financially feasible anymore. I don't know if we.
That's a consideration right there. And Newry is not unique in that we only have, what, 2 municipal firefighting water storage facilities?
Oh, no, we have more than that.
Yeah.
2 municipal.
Oh, municipal, correct, we only have 2.
And so that was one comment that came out of our management team, was like, well, hey, if they're gonna make every minor subdivision have 60,000 gallons of firefighting water.
Or deeded access to them.
Okay, like, does it make sense for the town to kind of like contribute to this by developing some municipal sources? But we can discuss that later, doesn't it?
that's an excellent, you know, that's an,
I'm hoping the state fire marshal's office wins the fight in Augusta and sprinklers stay in.
okay. Peter, you've been very patient with us.
And very helpful, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for
very
the time,
helpful.
appreciate it.
We really are overjoyed to have somebody really take some interest in this besides the
Well,
board.
and Sunday River's the biggest stakeholder, so
They're-
we were very happy to have you involved.
There have been revisions in the past that I found out about after they were voted in, it's like, no. So when you two emailed me, I was really very appreciative of that. Like, we wanna be involved and wanna be here, and finding out about it afterwards.
If
is
you
always
pick up your mountain and go to another community, we'll be very sad.
Pick up your mountain.
Straight line.
Okay, for the record, we also have a correspondence from Rick Dutton of Mainland Security. It's an email addressed, addressed from Rick Dutton from Mainland Development, sent to the administrator of Newry, Maine org, with copies to Peter Robert, dated Thursday, January 1st, 2026, 9:51 p.m. And the subject or UDRO edits. It reads as follows: Hi Loretta, I thought the UDRO edits were thoughtful and aimed at clarifying the use of the ordinances. I do not believe, as hard as we may try, that a perfect ordinance exists, since there are so many different mitigating situations that can occur. As such, I'd suggest that there be a catch-all paragraph giving the board the ability to waive or circumvent technical standards by vote when the board feels it's warranted to create a better situation for the town and/or applicant. One additional note, driveways should be allowed to short and vehicles back in. I think there's some grammar there that's missing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he thinks they should be able to back out into the road.
This is okay, so basically he believes that we should allow for vehicles to be able to back out of a driveway into the road instead of requiring that they have room to back around off the road. And Peter's comments are also thoughtful and thorough. I generally agree with his assessments. Thank you for including us in the process. And Rick Dutton, professional engineer, Mainland Development.
I think that the backing out on the road makes a lot of sense on a neighborhood road, but maybe that would follow like the different road classifications and not have people backing out onto a primary road, if that's the intent, but I don't know.
Yeah, I would probably, certainly backing out on a road in the middle of a subdivision is different than backing out onto a primary road that is.
Yeah, Skiway or Sunday River Road.
I thought they don't do it anyway.
I'm scared of pulling up brokers, but
Thank you,
Thank you.
Peter. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Thank you.
We are still in the public hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Does any, my closing remarks are short. I will take Peter's letter and I will sit down and try to massage him into the ordinance as we discussed, and have him out for review prior to the next meeting. Does any other board member wish to make any closing remarks? All right, hearing none, I will adjourn the public hearing at 8 o'clock.
I'm out of here.
All right,
Thank you.
very quickly, Loretta and Walter, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Walter, for your,
Is there a motion to adjourn?
talk to Loretta, there is another ordinance that's being proposed to be amended that might be of interest to you.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okey-doke.
Was that a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
Motion to adjourn the public,
No, I don't think we need a motion to
Okay.
adjourn, that's just the chairman can declare
okay,
it.
so I'll stop the recording,
Okay, we're moving into the,
right, but I wanna start a new recording.
okay, yes, you're gonna start a new recording.
Before we go into the meeting.
All right.
When are you gonna do that?
As soon as I get to mine.
Joel, can we drink out of that faucet?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Good water.
Let's take a quick 3-minute We'll start the meeting at 5 after the hour
Okay,
here.
good.
Apologize for the interruption. My grandson decided to FaceTime me over and over and over and over and over again from his iPad. Oops. I think his dad's working tonight, and I think his mom is a little distracted. I was emailing him, and I'm like, somebody needs to get Damien off his iPad. It's like, and then I decided I should take it just in case something's wrong in the house.
I know.
So I was like, okay, I need to step up.
Are you
and
okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Where is
Make sure
everybody?
that you have a parent nearby or something. Oh my gosh.
That was a really good review by somebody. I mean, they'll want to have a good review.
Yeah.
It was definitely a good review.
Yeah.
And, you know.
And,
do it again, you would do it again.
Oh, yeah.
Clear
It was
that
like,
it
that was a
was-
good
I
idea.
need to just
Make sure.
There's
More than just you.
emergency.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, you talked about the corporate team they had. I appreciated the ability to have input.
Oh my God, don't move or you'll get put away.
Huh?
Don't move or you'll put, or keep moving or you'll get put away. Is everybody set to go? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, recording.
All right. Good evening, this is the January 7th, 2026 meeting of the Town of Newry, Maine Planning Board. This meeting will come to order. My name is Ted Baker, and I am the chairperson of the board. Just a reminder that we are recording this meeting, and we also are video recording tonight, compliments of Western Hills Access Television.
We are.
We've already been in session for 2 hours with the public hearing, so let's see if we can keep this one short. We have a full board here tonight, so we do have a quorum. And we have no unfinished business that is going to be up for a vote tonight, so we have no issues with people not being eligible to vote. Are there any discussions or contrary opinions to that? Okay. Let's move on to the minutes of the prior meeting, which was held on December, what? 17th. Does anybody have any?
Yes. I have a correction.
Okay.
On the comprehensive review committee, we had decided not to include all of the graphs and charts, so we were just gonna do a subset, because what happened was, we had gotten a whole bunch of graphs, and it was just a little bit too much, and so we kind of wanted to pare that down a little bit. So it wasn't that we weren't gonna include any, it was just, we're gonna,
Okay, so it should be changed to, the committee decided to not include all.
of the graphs, or you could say it only include a subset.
Okay, okay.
So there will be graphs, but it's not just gonna be as many as what, you can make graphs about everything, right?
Okay, Becky, are you clear on that then?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments, edits, corrections? If not, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes with the one correction noted.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. A motion with a second to accept the minutes of the December 17th meeting with the one correction noted has been made. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The minutes have been approved. Okay, Joel, do we have any correspondence to put in the record?
only what you had in the public hearing.
Okay. Becky, do you need any more future reference on that? That would be the memo from Rick Dutton and the
No.
letter from Peter Roberts.
Right, I didn't get a copy of the letter from Rick Dutton, but I think read it pretty,
It should
Oh,
be in
is
your
it?
packet.
Yeah, it's in there.
It's a,
Okay.
it's
yeah, you got it,
Okay.
okay. I didn't make it all the way down through my file.
a, okay. We have no applications, either unfinished or new to review. We have unfinished business, a proposal to adopt rules of procedures. Has there been any changes to that from any of the board members?
Not yet.
Not yet. If that's the case, I will table the,
Yeah, let's do that.
we'll continue to table that.
Thank you.
Unfinished is the UDRO 2026 review and presentation, continue review of the proposed changes and edits. Does anybody have anything to add to the 2 hours that we've already spent on this?
Nope, great job.
Well, nice job moderating.
Okay, let's move on to, and hopefully this one will be short, planning board, amending the planning board ordinance. You all should have a copy of the planning board ordinance with some proposed amendments here. I am trying to, would like to give the board the flexibility to have a minimum of 3, a maximum of 5 members.
I don't think I got a copy.
Oh, you gave it to me.
Oh, okay, that's why.
You want it back?
Well, if I'm gonna reference it in the,
Yeah, you can have
Sorry.
it back.
yeah, got it.
You can share a copy.
I should have it.
I have more.
You have one?
Oh, yeah, I made 15 copies of everything.
Oh, thank you. I'm not sure.
That one?
Yes, that one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Becky, you
This
got
is the
it?
one, June
Yeah,
31st.
yeah.
Okay, got
Yes,
it.
that's the June 31st
Yeah,
one.
Yeah,
June
you print yours,
31st.
okay.
Okay.
Do you want
So-
color?
No, thank you.
So, the primary motivation here is to build some flexibility into the composition of the planning board to have a minimum of 3, maximum of 5 members. That would, one, give us, if we can get 4 or 5 members, would make for a better board in its review and its decisions. Right now, if 2 members of the board split on an issue, it basically comes down to the 3rd member saying which way of the fence are we gonna fall. Granted, that could still happen with more members, but it's, at least there's a bigger number there. The other,
Quick question, can I ask a
Yeah.
question on that one? But I think it's answered by the fact that it's, that at least 3, it still allows you to be just 3, just thinking that
yes,
if you have trouble
Like,
filling
look.
seats, like it seems like
which
there's
is
been-
why
I
we
think
went
I
from,
was a warm body and I got in, so.
which is why it was, did you fog the mirror?
Yeah.
Is why back in 21, the ordinance was amended from 5 to 3 was because,
Oh,
and Becky, who's a survivor of that period, can
I
tell us.
became a board member, even though I'm not even a Newry resident, just because we couldn't get,
A quorum.
a quorum, because people just, members that were on the board weren't showing up to the meetings, and we had an active application. It was a mess.
Yeah.
But- And we actually have one person who would like to serve on the board, but does not want to serve in the capacity of a alternate. So it seems a shame to waste that opportunity to do that. So that's there. The other, while I'm at it, I said, okay, does it, especially if you have a 3-member board, does it really make sense that each one of us has to have a position or office? And therefore, I'm suggesting that we combine the office of secretary and chair, vice chair to one person. So then we'd have 2 officers, the chair and the vice chair secretary. The last one, let's see, is, okay, no meeting shall be held without a quorum consistent, okay, that's, so there in section F on page 2, we're setting up the standards for what's a quorum depending on the number of members that you have. Also, in paragraph 4, it says that the planning board shall thereafter periodically review and make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen for revisions of the comprehensive plan. We are way too busy as it is, and the mindset of being a comprehensive plan review and a review board for land use and development is two separate things. And so I am recommending to the select board that responsibility, which the board has not been faithful in executing, be removed.
So it means that we could still sit on the comprehensive plan committee, right?
Yes. Yes. In fact, but what it doesn't, what it says
It's not
here.
the responsibility of our board to review it.
Right, which
That's
is what it
why-
says, is once the comprehensive plan is done and approved, hey, planning board, it's yours to keep.
That's
And,
the town.
and actually, what I'm gonna recommend to the select board is that the comprehensive plan review committee become a standing committee. And so, yeah, once the plan is adopted, maybe you only meet 4 times a year, once a quarter.
Yeah.
But at least you have the committee, and they're the ones who are saying, hey, are we on track, or, oh, we need to adjust for something that we didn't contemplate.
You can always have it the way that it currently is made up, that a representative from each board attend the
Yeah.
comprehensive.
What's the
planning.
word, ex officio? So, and again, just my own opinion, the comprehensive plan review committee should have ex officio staff from the town administrator, the board of, the select board, as well as the planning board.
Right. Agree.
And then, of course, I replaced the board of selectmen with select board. Does anybody have any comments, things they like, don't like?
All good.
Yeah, I had just written down the question, kind of why the change for the number, but you explained it.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, it's, I think,
You did give an overview.
yeah, I did an overview, which, an executive overview, which I don't think was distributed. If you can just give Cindy a copy of that. It just basically,
I have more.
you can hold them back, I got one.
I know you do.
You gave me an extra.
Okay.
Thank you.
I wondered why I had 2 different sets of those, because that was in black and white, not in color.
Yeah,
I think we should take the opportunity, though, while we are on TV, that, you know, if you'd like to do your civic duty, this is a great town.
Here comes the
Everyone
pitch.
that we work with is really wonderful. It's important to be involved and help your community. So if you'd like to be a planning board member.
and this is where the action is in Newry on Wednesday nights, on the first and third Wednesday.
And all you need to do is stop at the town
All right.
office and tell Loretta you're interested in helping out.
I will entertain a motion that we go forth with the amendment to the planning board ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
A motion with a second to proceed with the planning board ordinance amendment has been made. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I will forward this amendment with a memorandum cover sheet to the select board for the next meeting for consideration.
Great.
Joelle, quick and dirty reports, please.
Wait, comprehensive plan review committee report.
Right.
Oh, okay, well, I skipped
That
over
was
that one.
Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a really good meeting on Monday. We were presented with 2 built-out sections for the economy and the historical and archaeological resources chapters. One of the things that came up was to work with Sunday River, and so we had crafted and talked about a questionnaire to work with Sunday River. so that they can come back with some, economic input, of like employees and, numbers of, personnel and, to get a better, let's say fabric of what's happening up there and what's to come. And so we suggested that, our next meeting, we actually formally invite Sunday River representatives to come. And we're gonna send, the questions that we came up with. There's general, discussion points that we can have, with them, so we'd like to really have like, some type of roundtable. So that's gonna be our next meeting, and hopefully that will happen, let's see, February 9th at 5 PM. So we're gonna look for Sunday River participation.
Yeah. The agenda also mentioned something about the LDs and the UDRO, was that discussed at all? or-
Yep, we did talk about them and their impacts. You know, it was really a matter of like waiting for things to settle and then see how it can be incorporated into the comprehensive plan. Or not, but
Yeah,
yeah,
only because Augusta is so fluid,
yeah,
our comprehensive plan will probably stand for 10 years.
right, right. So, but it's just more, if there's any language in there that needs to be more either general or specific around things that we'd like to see.
Yeah.
One of the things that we really did talk a lot about was, summer versus winter, and partnerships that we'd like to establish with land trusts and, just talking about the historical, preservation of the town and the character and recognizing that we have two different faces, right? And so, how to meet the needs of both the, recreational, big mountain resort and then also the smaller community that has been here forever and that, you know, there's two different, factions of the town. And, how can we, make sure that people are happy and comfortable in their spaces and, how the town's run, so, yeah.
I just have one request that you bring to the committee. As noted in the public hearing tonight, we are setting aside a reserved chapter for qualified affordable housing developments. And while the preliminary draft of that is in existence, it's not ready to be put out until the next cycle of the UDRO. But input or guidance from the comprehensive plan committee towards what should be or look for in a qualified affordable housing development
Yeah.
plan. And I know, and again, taking into the consideration that we're a resort vacation community that has its own challenges as to what's affordable and what's not affordable.
Yeah. Some of the bigger topics that came up that, or like headings of like what the discussion that we would like to pull Sunday River into are, the transfer station, health, food, recreation, housing, so that was part of our discussion, and then also conservation. How can we marry some of our common goals?
Did they record that vigil yes on Monday or not?
Yes,
Yeah.
they did record it, it just wasn't live.
Wasn't live.
Okay, okay, so it hasn't been posted yet because I haven't seen it on the.
Loretta told me they turned on the camera.
Okay, okay. But tonight's live.
Yeah, we're live right now.
Okay.
So we're looking to have more of a workshop with Sunday River.
Good,
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
Good idea. Good
Good.
idea. Anything else?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Okay,
Joel?
we did have some erosion issues on one of the subdivisions that I'm the inspecting officer, official for. And the developer called me on the 29th, really hopeful that tomorrow's warm weather allows them to get in there and do what they need to do to fix some of the erosion. Mother Nature being what it is, rain just washed out and went right through the erosion control berm, so they need to get in there and fix that. Hopefully tomorrow they can do that.
Joelle, was that the one that you had mentioned the last
Yes.
meeting that
Yep.
you hadn't heard from?
Yep, I
Okay,
heard
great.
from them.
Perfect.
Amazing what a stop order was.
Oh, no, it was just a letter of violation, huh?
But,
No
oh,
cease work order,
It
so.
wasn't a cease work.
Oh.
All right, anything else, Joel?
No.
There hasn't been any movement on traffic counts for this winter, has there?
By the recommendation from AvCog, there won't be.
Okay.
There will be or won't be?
Won't
There
be.
Won't be.
Will not be, okay.
Will not.
And so we still need to follow up with Sunday River and the very old DEP order.
Yeah, very old.
All right, anybody have any open discussion items that they would like to talk? Everybody's itchy to get out of here, so am I. Okay. Our next meeting is scheduled for January 21st, 2026 at 6 o'clock in this very room. Everybody be able to make that one?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
There's been a motion with a second to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.